In 1995, the United States Congress voted that the United States should move its embassy to Jerusalem. The Senate voted 95-0. They put a provision in there that a president could waive it every 6 months for national security or foreign policy reasons or whatever. And every president keeps waiving it, except one. He waived it once, but no more, Donald Trump. As recently as last year, June 2017, I misspoke. It was 93-5. I'm looking at my notes here. It was 93-5 in 1995. There was another vote in 2017 underscoring that we should move our embassy. That vote was 90-0. 90-0. Donald Trump on December 6, 2017 announces that's exactly what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, it's a provocation. All of a sudden, even though Congress overwhelmingly has voted for it, decade after decade, all of a sudden it's Donald Trump's fault that there's a provocation. The Iranians are angry. The Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran, Hamas, part of the Muslim Brotherhood, a terrorist group by our own State Department and other countries, all of a sudden they attack and it's Trump's fault. This is our media. Our pro-Iranian regime, pro-Hamas, pro-North Korea, pro-Cuba, pro-Russia, pro-China media. Our media. But that doesn't matter to Joe Scarborough. That doesn't matter to the White House press corps. Tonight, they're going to be very comfortable. They'll all have steaks or shrimp, cheesecake for dessert, talk to each other about how awful this is and how awful that is. They'll go to bed at night, probably not with their wives or husbands, probably with somebody else. They'll wake up in the morning and attack America. Attack and attack our president. Attack and attack the Israelis. As they defend, whether they admit it or not, terrorists and police states all over the world. If Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski think the Israelis are the problem and Hamas is not the problem, then get your ass over to the Gaza and report from there. Have your little circle table there and let's see what happens. They get the whole White House press corps to give it a shot, see what happens. They'd run to the Israeli side so fast, they'd win gold medals. And that's the truth. I would ask the media this question. Why are there kids at the fence if, as Hamas says, the Israelis are there to kill them? Why do they send their kids there? Why do they send their women there? Would you, ladies and gentlemen, is that how you think? Let's listen to some of our media, and I say they have blood on their hands. Because Hamas does this not because they think they're going to actually win a war with Israel, but they're trying to bring worldwide pressure on the country, starting with the American media and the American Democrat Party. Here's a montage of reporters put together by Newsbusters at the White House briefing with Deputy Press Secretary Raj Shah yesterday. Cut 2, go.
The death toll is over 50 in Gaza. Is the U.S. calling on Israel to use restraint in dealing with these protests? There's no burden on Israel to do something to sort of rein it in?
But I can very quickly...
Now stop. That's a reporter for Reuters, which is always anti-Israel. What did the Israelis do? Did they send their jets in there? Did they strafe? Did they send their tanks in there and put an end to it real quickly? Were they firing bazookas or grenade launchers? Were they shooting machine guns into the crowd? No, they had snipers there trying to figure out who's who. I heard some idiot on the radio today, I'm told, why didn't they use rubber bullets? They did it first. They used tear gas, they used rubber bullets, then they used real bullets. Go ahead.
Minister Raj said about what's taking place in Gaza. He urged Israeli authorities to exercise discretion and restraint. So to be clear, does the U.S. not agree with the French that Israeli authorities should exercise discretion and restraint?
That's NBC. That's Peter Alexander with NBC. Go ahead.
That Hamas is responsible for what's going on.
So there's no responsibility beyond that on the Israeli authorities. Kill at will.
Stop. Kill at will. Peter Alexander, kill at will. Does it sound like they're killing at will? This is disgusting. This is Alexander. Let me tell you something, Peter Alexander and Steve Holland with Reuters. Hamas is doing this for you. Hamas is doing this for you. Those children and women are dying so you can say what you're saying. You damn fools. Go ahead.
Issue of peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. When was the last time the White House reached out to Palestinian leadership? And will, given the high numbers of casualties, Palestinians calling what's happened today a massacre, will the White House be reaching out?
Well, I don't honestly have an answer for you on that. I'll get back to you.
Jared Kushner in his speech pointed a finger at the Palestinians, saying they were responsible for provoking violence. But given the fact that it's only Palestinians that are being killed, should Israel not shoulder some of the blame? Throwing rocks 50 meters from the wall. And
listen to this propaganda.
Attack. I mean, is the White House in denial of the split-screen reality that's occurring?
The split-screen reality. Jessica Stone. I don't even know what news group she's with. How about Hamas, Jessica? You didn't say a word about Hamas. You keep saying the Palestinians generically. The Palestinians on the east side of Israel didn't do a damn thing. The Palestinians in Jerusalem didn't do a damn thing. They didn't do anything. Why won't she call it Hamas? Why won't she say Hamas? Why doesn't she give any context with her questions? Does the White House have anything to say about Hamas pushing their children and women to the front line? Not a word. And what is she also implying there? Look, Palestinians are dying, but no Jews. Would she be happy if we had a quota system? Sure she would. Absolute disgrace. Disgusting. Now, this Matt Bradley has been played all day. I heard it in the radio driving from the airport home, MSNBC reporter, because he's a fool. Cut 3, go.
Well, Katie, what I've seen here just yesterday and last Friday was horrible violence. You saw tens of thousands of young people crossing fields between the urban part of Gaza and the Israeli border, essentially trying to walk across this heavily militarized border.
Why are they doing that? Who told them to do it? Who forced them to do it? Matt. And I notice you're not reporting from the Gaza side either. What's with that, Matt? Go ahead.
Armed. Now, as you know, it's easy to say they were completely unarmed. They had some light weapons. A lot of them would be burning tires or rolling tires to try to melt the razor wire. They had slingshots. They had a new and crazy invention, incendiary kites, where they would try to loft kites and set them on fire to try to light up some of the agricultural fields.
Tell me, Matt, how many people were on that border rioting? How many were rioting? How many tens of thousands were rioting, and what was their purpose? And who told them to do it? Matt. And who told them to hide their guns and knives under their clothes, Matt? And what was their mission? To kidnap Israelis, right, Matt? How about those tunnels, Matt? How about the money pouring into this militia army from Iran and Turkey and the Muslim Brotherhood, Matt? Did you mention that Hamas is a terrorist group, Matt? Did you mention that they train their little children to be suicide bombers, Matt? They've been doing that now for decades. Not a word. Nothing. Did you mention, Matt, that the Israelis are not trying to cross the border to Gaza, but that Hamas has ordered its people to cross the border into Israel? Have you also mentioned that they do this every May 14th or 15th, Matt? Have you mentioned that Israel faces 150,000 missiles, Matt? Go ahead.
the border with Israel. But these were hardly the kind of weapons that could frighten any Israeli soldier who were armed sniper rifles and who later on in this afternoon were using artillery to fire not only near some of the Hamas locations that they had identified, but even near us, about 100 meters.
No, they were shooting artillery to try and scare the... Matt, can't you tell the truth? Go ahead.
Me and my team this afternoon, we were nearly hit by some artillery. So it's kind of hard to imagine how these Israeli troops could have been threatened by a lot of these young people who were really not peacefully demonstrating, but peacefully by comparison to the Israeli soldiers. And indeed, no Israeli soldier has been killed, and nearly 100 Palestinians have died in the past 7 weeks of protesting.
Listen to the language. Well, now, you Israeli soldiers, you got to sacrifice a few of them. You know, if we could get 20 or 30 killed. Now, it wouldn't satisfy Matt Bradley. It'd still be 100 to 20 or 30. But that would help with the PR, with MSNBC. This reporter has blood on his hands, too. He's doing exactly what Hamas wants him to do. And he's doing it. Jessica Stone, Peter Alexander. This is what Hamas does. I didn't invent this. This is what they've told their people. This is what they've said. Then we have Professor Princeton University on MSNBC. Cut 4, go.
While Donald Trump is doing this and may look for a deflection, it's not necessarily going to help the midterms.
All of that's important, and all of those babies are dead. All of those people are dead. They're dead. And we're talking about racehorses. The politics. There are a lot of folks who are dead today. For what? I'm sorry. This is me being a moralist, I suppose.
No, you're not a moralist. You're a buffoon. Why are those children at the front lines of a Hamas-inspired armed conflict? Professor, you don't want to know the truth. Neither does Katie Tur, an ignoramus by all accounts. Go ahead.
In the White House today, their response to that was it is Hamas's fault, and they're using them as tools for...
I've told you, ladies and gentlemen, the media are the mouthpieces for Hamas. They'll deny it, but that's exactly who they are. That's exactly what they are. Just like when Trump got rid of the Iran deal, they were the mouthpiece for the mullahs in Tehran. They've been the mouthpiece for the dictator in North Korea. That's who they are. They're out of the closet. Go ahead.
Propaganda.
That's like saying the children in the Children's March of Birmingham, it was their fault that Bull Connor attacked them.
You know what, pal? You're a disgrace. To compare the marchers in the civil rights movement to Hamas, a terrorist organization, that's what you did, Professor. Oh, he's from Princeton, don't you know? That's what you just said. That's what you just did. Hamas must be led by Martin Luther King. And Israel's led by Bull Connor. You're a sick man, Professor. You wonder why our kids go to these schools and they come out so weird? It's because of guys like him. I'll be right back. And it needs to be unraveled. There's a guy by the name of Phil Mudd on CNN. He's apparently a former CIA guy. Collecting a big pension thanks to you and me. He is a buffoon of the highest order. A clown. A moron. Listen to this idiot on CNN. If you're an idiot, you're on CNN or MSNBC. Cut 5, go.
If you're a deal maker who for 70 years has tried to portray yourself as an impartial mediator between the Palestinians and the Israelis, how do you sit there and say we gave away something for nothing? For a man who wrote The Art of the Deal, that is his father-in-law, we just gave the Israelis an incredible gift. What did we get in return, and how do we persuade the Palestinians, including a president who follows? The president is the guardian not only of his own presidency, but of future presidencies. How do we go to the Palestinians and say, now come to the table and we expect you to...
Hey, idiot. Maybe you missed 70 years of history. Maybe you've been self-waterboarding all these years, you moron. The Palestinians were offered most of Judea, most of Samaria, and most of Jerusalem. You must have missed that. Now this idiot blames Trump for doing what Congress told presidents to do since 1995. You aware of that, you idiot? Mud, and you are mud. Your name ought to be Flake, but we already have one of those. So now the president actually institutes the law that was passed in 1995, overwhelmingly in the House, 93-5 in the Senate. Again, this past June, the United States Senate votes 90-0, and this clown, hey, you know what? Well, the art of the deal, always the cheap shots, always the attacks. The fact of the matter is, Donald Trump will be remembered for this and 10 other things he's done as president. Many of us never thought we'd see it, but we're seeing it. And this guy, Mudd, won't ever be remembered for anything. He won't even be a footnote to a footnote in history. Creeps like him. Creeps like him, the art of the deal. Hey, how was that Obama art of the deal, putz, with Iran? And that peace treaty he got with Palestine. With the so-called Palestinians. How about the others? You fool. Look at you, you sellout for a paycheck. For a paycheck. Work for the CIA. Ours or somebody else's. And that's the mantra. We didn't get anything back from the Jews and the Israelis for Jerusalem. We didn't get anything back. We didn't get anything from them. It's their capital. What are we supposed to get from them? What did you want from them, Mudd? But he's not alone. CNN, they're like parrots, one after the other. Fareed Zakaria, whatever, on CNN, cut 6, go.
I think it was a very non-strategic move, by which I mean to say Trump is supposed to be the master of the art of the deal.
Oh, where did we hear that before? Oh, the master of the art of the deal. Go.
Very rare to make a major concession to one side without getting something from the other.
Oh, you mean like with the Iranians? Hey, look, fellas, mullahs, and assorted Islamists. Look, sign the deal. We'll give you $150 billion. I'll give you $1.8 billion in cash for the ransom stuff. Give us some people back. And just don't build nukes for 10 years. After that, you're off to the races. You mean like that? Freak Zakaria? Go ahead.
Has been a prize. Look, there are 86 countries that recognize Israel. All their embassies are in Tel Aviv. This is a very big gift.
Look how condescending this guy is, like Mudd, to a nation state, a sovereign country, to the Jews. Look how they talk about them. This is a gift to the Jews. Is Jerusalem as a gift to the Jews? Let me tell you something, you jerk. It's not a gift from the United States. Read the Bible. Oh, you don't believe in the Bible. Oh, then read the New York Times, I guess. I'm not done with these clowns. These hosts and reporters say about Israel, the country, that they wouldn't say about any other country. They wouldn't say it about a Muslim country. They wouldn't say it about an Asian country, an African country, never. But Israel, it's free game. Joe Scarborough on the Morning Joe. Cut 7, go.
I think the most amazing thing is that we didn't ask Netanyahu for anything for this.
So you hear they're all saying the same thing. And so what they're saying, this is what I mean about this whiff of anti-Semitism. Hey, Jews, you want your historic capital? You want us to move our embassy there? Well, then you need to do X, Y, and Z. Have we done this to any other country on the face of the earth, ladies and gentlemen, with whom we have relations? Any other country on the face of the earth where we have relations, have we ever said, if you want us to put our embassy in your capital, you need to give up X, Y, Z? Tell me one other country. One other country. There isn't any other country. There's a whiff of anti-Semitism on the left, in the media, and I'm not kidding. And one of the wonderful things I saw when I was at that embassy, our brand new embassy in Jerusalem, were so many leading evangelical Christians, including Pastor Hagee. Absolutely wonderful. And none of you get a sense for this because the media are not showing you any of it. They've hit a clip here and there. They have mocked Ivanka Trump. Ivanka Trump is a beautiful, classy, smart young lady. And she has 3 children, is my recollection, and she's a hands-on mother. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. You don't have to agree with all her politics. It doesn't matter. She doesn't deserve to be talked about and treated the way she is. And frankly, neither does her husband, Jared Kushner. It's not a matter of politics. They're not doing anything that should provoke the kind of personal, vicious attacks that they get. The whole damn Trump family has to face this. All of them. For what? Meanwhile, don't ever say anything about the Obama children. Perfect. Or Michelle. Perfect. Perfect. Don't say a word. Not a word. Not a word. They're great in every way. Every conceivable way. Period. Trump's kids, fair game. Anything. And I'm sick and tired of it. More from this jerk. Go ahead.
Right. And to move to move this embassy to Jerusalem and get nothing in return from Israel that moves
the art of the deal.
Process.
Oh, there's Brzezinski. Chip off the old man's block. Go ahead.
It's just, that's the worst deal making I could imagine.
Or at least to try to give some kind of an olive branch to the Palestinians, something to say, yes, we're moving this, but here's what you get out of it as well, and make it part of a larger package.
You know, I have a different take on this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think the Palestinians get anything until they demonstrate they're not going to keep killing people. And so these guys sit there in their studio with their clever little snarky comments about the art of the deal, and Mika there, the Ed McMahon, lame. And they're all saying the same thing. Have you noticed? Then there's Andrea Mitchell. Well, let's play that. She's on the Morning Joe show. Cut 8, go.
But the real loser is one of our strongest allies, never mentioned by anyone, King Abdullah of Jordan, who has...
Oh, King Abdullah of Jordan's the loser. The Israelis and the Jordanians have never been closer because of Iran. But now King Abdullah's the loser. King Abdullah is so thrilled that his country's loaded with 70% of the Palestinians. He's trying to stop them from coming into his country. One time they had to go to war with them because they were trying to overthrow his monarchy. Right, Andrea? You're going to mention that? No, Andrea, you're not going to mention that. Go ahead.
Majority Palestinian country who is going to be overwhelmed. The Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Overwhelmed with what? You even know what the hell you're talking about? Of course you don't. Otherwise, you'd be on a real network. Go ahead.
Care if in this grand scheme of Jared Kushner's, the Palestinians...
See, now we got it. We could have personalized. Grand scheme of Jared Kushner's. She's disgusting in every way. She just is. She's been hanging around like a toothache for so long. I don't want to hear any more from her. Let's see. Why don't we hear from a real leader? A woman that I admire. You know, Hillary Clinton likes to say America's not ready for a woman. Yes, we are. We love Nikki Haley. If there's a Thatcherite lady out there, we love her too. We backed Sarah Palin. I can go on and on and on. America's ready for a woman. They just can't stand you, Hillary, regardless of your genitalia. It didn't matter. If you're a guy, we can't stand you. All right. Now that I've settled that, why don't we take a listen to Nikki Haley at the UN today? Cut 10, go.
Hamas has attacked the Karem Shalom crossing, the biggest entry point in Gaza for fuel, food, and medical supplies.
Well, let's stop right there. So, Joe, why would they do that? Why would they attack the major entry point where the Israelis are bringing them food and medical supplies? Why don't you tell your audience that the country that provides more food, medical supplies, clean water, and electricity to Gaza is Israel? Why don't you tell them that, Joe? Lame. Go ahead.
How determined they are to make the lives of the Palestinian people miserable. They light Molotov cocktails attached to kites on fire and attempt to fly them into Israel to cause as much destruction as possible.
Let me explain what that means. You see, the area between Gaza, there's a big buffer area between Gaza and many of the Israeli communities. Some of them are right up there, and there's a lot of grassland there. And so what they're trying to do is create these massive fires. We've had massive fires in places like California and the Northwest, and so that's what they want to create. And then they want to storm the fence, where 50 or 100,000 people start flooding into this tiny country. That's the problem. Hey, all they're doing is shooting paper clips with rubber bands. Go ahead.
When asked yesterday why he put a swastika on his burning kite, the terrorist responded, quote, "The Jews go crazy when you mention Hitler," unquote. This is what is endangering the people of Gaza. Make no mistake.
Wow, remember that Princeton? Oh, this is just like the marchers at Selma. Idiot. Go ahead.
Is pleased with the results from yesterday. I asked my colleagues here in the Security Council, who among us would accept this type of activity on your border? No one would. No country in this chamber would act with more restraint than Israel has. In fact, the records of several countries here today suggest they would be much less restrained. Those who suggest that the Gaza violence has anything to do with the location of the American embassy are sorely mistaken. Rather, the violence comes from those who reject the existence of the state of Israel in any location.
And by the way, Joe and Fareed and the rest of the gaggle of miscreants and malcontents, how about all those Democrats in 1995 and all those Democrats in 2017 who voted in support of moving our embassy to Jerusalem? How come you're not attacking a single Democrat who voted to do that? Not one. They won't attack a single Democrat who voted to move our embassy to Jerusalem. And not a single Democrat currently in the House or Senate went to the ceremony. It just shows you what's happened to the Democrat Party and the media. Bunch of ratfinks. The Washington Free Beacon put a montage together, and they do this often, and they do it well, as does Newsbusters. The American embassy in Israel is controversial. The American embassy in Cuba is historic. Cut one, go.
This is controversial, moving from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv.
We begin this morning with an historic moment in relations between the United States and Cuba.
Is that the move, this very controversial move, which clearly is a blow to Palestinians?
It was a real historic day, steeped in symbolism. Not only did the national anthem play,
underlining just how controversial this embassy move is.
Reopened, U.S. Embassy in Havana for the historic moment.
And right now, the ceremony for that embassy opening, which is highly controversial.
Secretary of State John Kerry about his historic trip to Havana.
On that incredibly tense issue of Jerusalem's final status.
Historic moment this morning, the raising of the American flag over the U.S. Embassy in Cuba.
In many ways, today is all about controversy, faith, and history.
Now to the historic moment that is set to unfold in Cuba a little bit later this morning.
The U.S. Embassy making its official and quite controversial move,
where the American flag is flying over the U.S. Embassy in Havana for the first time in more than half a century, the latest on this historic day.
Why would the White House, in the middle of what they already know is controversial, choose someone controversial?
And for now, we leave you with just some of the sights and sounds of this historic day here in the Cuban capital.
Sounds like the idiot Andrea Mitchell. Now, this is my point, folks. The media love tyrants and genocidal maniacs. They love them. They loved interviewing Castro. They get their hands on a Chinese dictator, Mao. They couldn't wait to interview him. The media back in the day loved Stalin. Oh, yes, they did. Yes, they did. But it's controversial to move our embassy to the capital of Israel, Jerusalem. It's historic to put an embassy in Havana, Cuba, a communist nation that has been nothing but trouble for the United States. And so when I say the media in this country stand with Iran, stand with Cuba, stand with North Korea, stand with Russia, stand with China, stand with Hamas. I think I said Iran. I'll say it again just to underscore it. I'm not kidding. Stand against the United States, stand against Israel. Anybody have opposite proof? Well, let's hear it. Because it is grotesque what has taken place here. Bridget, Palm Bay, Florida, the great WMMB. Go.
Good evening. Hi. I've learned a lot from you, and given all the points that you've gone through tonight, I've always wanted to ask you, why on earth it seems that most Jewish people in the United States tend to vote for Democrats. I've racked my brain. I'm missing something. I don't get it. Why?
Well, I'll tell you why, and I don't like it. It's because many Jews, quite frankly, like many Catholics, many Protestants and so forth, but many are secularists. And their first faith is their political ideology.
But they're
hold on now. I'm going to give you a perfect example. Stay on the phone. Mr. Producer, will you pull up the Bernie Sanders audio, please? This man was born Jewish. He's a self-hater as far as I'm concerned. And his ideology comes first. Here, listen to this. Go.
Do you believe, as many human rights groups, American, Israeli, Palestinian, European, are saying that the IDF snipers shooting kids, people in wheelchairs, are those war crimes?
Well, they're terrible actions, period. And I think, what the United States should be doing, and of course the Trump administration is doing exactly the opposite, is instead of applauding Israel for its actions, Israel should be condemned. Israel has a right to security. But shooting unarmed protesters is not what it is about. And ultimately, of course, when you have a situation in Hamas where youth unemployment is somewhere around 60%, in Gaza, where youth unemployment is 60%, where people are drinking filthy water.
Why is it 60% and why are they drinking filthy water? And who's providing them with their food, electricity, and clean water? But this reporter's a leftist, talking to a leftist. And, Bridget, there's a Jew. Bernie Sanders, right there. Now, Jew in name only. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
He's a complete fraud. Anyway, that's the best answer I have for you, and I do rack my brain on it. Thank you for your call. Quite frankly, I wonder why most people, as party groups, vote for Democrats. What have they done for anybody? If you want big, massive, controlling government, then fine. But truthfully, it was an amazing event, this moving of the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, despite all the haters in the media, despite the fact that Congress overwhelmingly voted for it. They never even mentioned that in the media. But it took President Trump to do it. One president after another signed the 6-month waiver. This president said, all right, enough already. And on December 6th, he did it. He deserves all the credit in the world. But he had quite a support team, and I would lead with Ambassador David Friedman, our ambassador in Israel. He's unparalleled. Absolute brilliant man, and in a very tough part of the world, and he's done a superb job. Jared Kushner, Jason Greenblatt, outstanding what they did. And Mike Pence, our vice president, doesn't get enough support in this regard either. And, of course, on the Israeli side, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and the ambassador to the United States from Israel, Ambassador Ron Dermer, another brilliant, brilliant man. And here we have all these statesmen who pulled this off. Forget about the barking chihuahuas in the media. Well, I mean, don't forget about them, but just put them in a box where they belong. They're a very nasty, hateful, ugly crowd of know-nothings. That's what they are. That's what they are. They don't respect our country. They don't respect our sovereignty. They don't respect Israel as a country, and they don't respect that country's sovereignty either. But just so you know, we are very, very well represented in that country by Ambassador Friedman, and the celebration was beautiful. There was no violence whatsoever. No threats whatsoever. No protests whatsoever. I was reading these websites back home. I was going, what the hell are they looking at? Other than Gaza, which is bad enough, there was nothing going on anywhere else in the country. 100,000 Israelis marched, and you never heard a damn thing about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, and emergency personnel. Go get them, America, and I'll see you tomorrow night. God bless you.